All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Yeah.
Welcome inside the pen, everybody. My name is Austin Stantz. I'll be your host for the evening. Our producer in the background is Tony. Thank you, Tony, for producing this show. We definitely appreciate it. And we have a very special show for you here tonight. We actually have a special guest that will be joining us here on the show in just a minute. His name is Bob Walters, and he is the creator and the host of Locked Up Sports. And he has a podcast, and we're going to have him on the show because he's definitely interviewed some very interesting people in terms of baseball and stuff like that. So we wanted to make sure that we kind of pick his brain, see what his show's about, and wanted to give him an opportunity to come on the show and maybe build a little bit more following and see what his episodes and what his podcasts really dive into about baseball and have to offer for us. I thought it would be a very good kind of mixture for our episode tonight. So definitely happy to have him here, and we'll have him on here in just a second. Hey Bob,
guys, how you doing? I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a pleasure, man. We definitely heard of your podcast, have listened to it a few times. I think you definitely have some great coverage there. And we were excited to have you in terms of sports. I think you definitely cover the New York area very well.
Thank you. Appreciate you listening. And I'm here to poach some of your audience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, getting right into it. I know I wanted to cover mostly the Mets today. I thought that you did a really good job covering that, and just to kind of jump in right away. Currently, the Mets where they're at, they just won recently 7-1. Against the Cardinals. I thought that was a really good game that they had yesterday. Kodai Senga, I believe that was his name that they got. He had a really good day on the mound, I thought. He went 2 innings. He was touching that 99 miles per hour range and had 2 strikeouts. What did you think?
You know what? Nobody really knows much about him because he's from overseas. He's from the other country. He's got this ghost pitch. He does throw real hard. As far as the Mets winning, it's spring training. That's when the Mets win. In my lifetime, usually is the win spring training, But that doesn't matter. I think, there was an injury to Quintana. It wasn't yesterday, but he's the 5th starter. So he's going to be out for a little bit. He broke his rib. Basically, spring training is, for me, it's just stay healthy, get everybody's arms loosened up. As far as Senga goes, he pitched well yesterday. I saw some of it, but he didn't get hurt, so I consider that a win. He didn't get hurt. He has this ghost pitch that I'm not really sure if it's like a forkball or if it's like what exactly it is. They basically
I think it runs into like that like you said, like that forkball splitter kind of pitch right there, because it definitely has some really good downward movement on it. I do know he did give up 1 home run in the game yesterday, but I'm not concerned about that, just like you said, because it's spring training. He's just really looking to get command of his fastball, work on his accuracy a little bit. And so, when guys come in their first couple starts, they're really just pounding the middle of the strike zone, and making sure that they got their velocity, their accuracy, and their off-speed pitches. So as far as that home run went, I wasn't too concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, spring training, just loosen your arm up. Get it ready for the season. Don't get hurt. And I'd prefer if none of them went to the World Baseball Classic either, because they don't treat that as spring training. I'm not sure they treat it as real games, but they're not treating it as spring training.
Oh, and no, I think that's definitely something we're going to cover here today, because I think that you bring up a huge point with that, and it definitely should be addressed, especially in the Mets organization. But as far as that game went yesterday, though. It was Lindor and Alonso both went deep yesterday. That for me was good to see, just because they're coming off both really good seasons. Lindor had a 270 batting average, 26 RBIs, 107 home runs last year. So he's coming off a good year. And Alonso was 271, 40 homers, and 131 RBIs. So, I mean, in a sense, with the RBIs, he was right there with Aaron Judge last season as far as ribbies went. And I was really pleased with that. I mean, to me, Alonso does not look like he's one of those guys that would jack out 50, 60 homers. Like, he doesn't have the muscles, that, he rips off his shirt and stuff like that. And he's not, what would you call that? Sculpted, if you will. But I guess that's why they call him the polar bear, though, right?
He's the polar bear. Yeah. Hey, listen, Alonso, both Alonso and Lindor are two of our top players. Yep. 3 years ago, people were saying that Alonso was better than Judge because Judge was always getting hurt. He was injury prone. He never finished full seasons. Obviously, last year he had an all-time season. But Alonso, the Mets are going to go as far as Alonso and Lindor basically take him. That and the pitching. If the pitching holds up and those two, play to the back of their baseball card, then the Mets will be all right. I'm not worried about those two. It's the young kids like Brett Beatty. He's having a big spring, and he came. They kind of brought him up last year. They brought him up for his first major league experience in a 4-game series in Atlanta. That was just the biggest series of the season, and basically they brought him up, and he hit a home run his first major league at bat. After that, he kind of he didn't do very well, but I didn't like doing that because that's too much pressure on the kid.
Oh yeah, you put a guy in a pressure situation like that, it's sink or swim for him, and as far as mentality goes, that's usually never a good plan.
Exactly, but he's hitting well this spring, and like I said, as far as Alonso, Lindor, I'm not worried about them. They're perennial all-stars. They're big stars. Pete Alonso is a big star in this town, and he's proven that he can play in New York. Lindor's a little goofy. He'll say the wrong thing sometimes. He's a little eccentric. His mouth will get himself in trouble sometimes, but that's all right. That's New York. He can handle it. He had the fight with McNeil 2 years ago about the squirrel or something. There was something going on, but he'll get his mouth. But he's an excellent ball player, and like I said, I'm not worried about those two. I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think those are two types of players that you can expect, for them to say, hey, let's rally around, jump on my back. And, when you need clutch hits, I'll be there to get them for you. And, when you're paying those guys that much, you expect them to really have that. And I think they do a good job of that. I think in terms of Mets in the past 10 years, man, I feel bad. I feel bad because of David Wright. I feel bad because of Matt Harvey. I feel bad because of Jacob deGrom. These are all guys that if they did not have so many injuries, stopping them from being the player that they can be, the Mets probably already would have won another World Series by now, no doubt.
Yeah, but if they didn't have that stuff, they wouldn't be the Mets. I mean, you could go back to 10 years, name the players you did. I could go back another 10 years, and I could name you the Generation K. Pulsifer, Wilson, Isringhausen. We had it. We were going to win titles galore. And what happened? Pulsifer and Wilson turned out to be nothing. Isringhausen was nothing on the Mets, went to be one of the best closers in the game for the Cardinals. So we turned Robbie Alomar. We almost single-handedly kept Robbie Alomar out of the Hall of Fame. He was a Hall of Famer and he came to the Mets and he almost blew the Hall of Fame. It's a saying I say, former Met, now good. Or it was good, now he's a Met. Listen, we've been living with this forever. You can feel bad for us, but, being a Mets fan, that's the cross we bear.
Oh, believe me. No, I totally get it. I'm a diehard Cubs fan out here in Chicago. So
yeah. But you won. Yeah, you won.
We won recently, but it was supposed to be a dynasty, and everyone says it was the dynasty that never was. So
no, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to be a Cubs fan who was dying for 100 years for a championship and now be upset, be like, wow, it wasn't a dynasty.
Oh no, I'm happy. I mean, I'm happy what they got. I'm happy that Jed Hoyer's getting his opportunity now to build his team. We'll see where that goes. But Theo Epstein, the whole thing, it was great. I loved it. Loved being a Cubs fan. My father-in-law got to see a World Series before he passed away. Okay. It's one of those things where it's like, you can't complain about it. So
well, how about Theo Epstein? How about Theo Epstein? Imagine that. He broke both curses, the Red Sox and the Cubs.
Yeah, curse of the Bambino and curse of the goat.
Yep, yes, sir.
So, but yeah, moving on to kind of what we were talking about, Edwin Diaz and the World Baseball Classic, is I read recently that Edwin Diaz wants to use him back to back in games. And for me, that is just completely idiotic because it's, you're putting a guy in who's just starting to get warmed up and you're putting him in a postseason situation. And in my eyes, you're just asking for an injury at this point.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if I was an owner or GM, I know they're not allowed to say it because it's sponsored by baseball, but I'd give the wink and a nod, like, you're not playing in the World Baseball Classic. I'm paying you $25-30 million. You're not, forget about pitching back to back. You're not playing in it. You do what you want. Wink, wink. You're not playing in it because you know what? Does it really? Who won the last World Baseball Classic? Do you know?
I believe it was he was either USA or DR.
Either USA or DR. So you don't know, right? I don't know either.
Oh, actually,
that's my point. That's my point.
Actually, no. I think it was Puerto Rico because Javier Baez had that no-look tag.
So you have no idea. And you know what? I don't either. And that's the point. Nobody cares. Like the World Baseball Classic, I don't know why they do it. It's like all these leagues are trying to expand. You got the NFL talking about a division over in overseas. Don't do it. Like, only bad things can happen. Like, would I sacrifice a U.S. championship in the World Baseball Classic and lose Diaz for 3 months? Absolutely not.
Not when the guy gave you 32 saves, only gave up 3 home runs last year in 62 innings pitched. I mean, he was an all-star last year. So
he was great. He was great last year. He could have won the Cy Young. He could. He was great. Now, when it comes to relievers and closers, I don't really trust any of them, to be honest with you. A lot of them have years like this, and then they'll fall off. They'll have, they'll go back and forth. Mariano Rivera is the only, and I hate the Yankees. Mariano Rivera is the only relief pitcher that I truly trust. I mean, growing up a Mets fan, I had Armando Benitez. Even Johnny Franco would always have the tying run on third, even when they won. They're just, closers and relief pitchers, they're a weird bunch, and they go up and down and up and down. Now, with Diaz, he's been good almost every year. He had one bad year.
Yep. He
was good. Last year, he was great. So I guess
his bad year. What was that? 2018 or 2019?
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. So it was like it might have been 2020 or 2019, but it was a bad year. But that was an outlier. It's not like sometimes you get these closers that come on and they'll have a great year, but that's the outlier, and then they're mediocre. Right. But as far as closers and relief pitchers go, I mean, listen, if they're not Mariano Rivera and nobody is, then I generally don't trust them.
Yeah, I ran into that issue as a Cubs fan with Craig Kimbrell. We got him from the Red Sox, and I was like, I mean, this guy was absolutely dominant with the Red Sox, so I was thrilled to have him, and he came over here and was just an absolute different guy. So, like you said, I mean, when they get on the bump, you never know who they are. And there was always these whispers going on about closers and relievers that they would always put themselves, especially closers, in worse situations just so they could get the save. And, that was the whispers that were going on, at least over the last, 5-10 years.
I guess, but I mean, that's like, that I never understood either. Like, well, come in and get the 3 outs. Does it really matter if the score is? I mean, I get it. If you're up 4 or 5 runs, you're not going to bring him in because that day you're just trying to throw strikes. You can pitch to contact when you're up that high, that many runs, stuff like that, and it's tough. But just get the outs. Don't even look at don't look at the scoreboard.
Yeah, well, that's when you shoot yourself in the foot. But I think these guys were mainly doing it maybe because they had contract obligations where if they hit a certain number of saves, they earned an extra $5 million or something like that. So was it them being greedy? I don't know.
But to be honest with you, a lot of times they won't bring the closer in unless it's a save opportunity. So unless they're paying the 8th inning guy to give up 2, you start shaving runs, which I don't think is happening. Listen, baseball players make plenty of money anyway. It's all guaranteed.
Yeah.
If you have a kid and they're going to play a sport, I don't play baseball. Because as soon as they put their name on that contract, they get every penny of it.
Yep.
Football's only worth as much as next week's paycheck.
But, yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree. And I think the Mets should be very careful. And I think that they have an absolute right to be upset about it. And in my eyes, like you said, this is your investment. You're paying this guy $25 million a year. You get yourself back here and you sit down and you wait, you work yourself out in spring training, and then, you go for the start of the season because, I know how bad these guys want to win the World Baseball Classic, and they think they have this pride in it because
they
feel
do,
like,
though?
Well, they say that
do?
They say that they're representing their country and stuff like that. I mean, you have to be good to be on the team, first of all, but you don't see these guys, for example, you don't see guys, even Chris Bryant and stuff like that. He is not talented enough to be on the world or the USA team, but yet, he's still the face of the Colorado Rockies. So
yeah, I think Chris Bryant is talented. I think he's probably one of the smart. He's probably like, I don't know if I want to do that because, and it's also Fugazi too with like some of the like Piazza. I remember back in the day when it first started, Piazza was on the Italian team because they can't field an Italian team.
Right.
So they're like, let's get some Italians. This played a couple of times. So Piazza played for the Italian team. And, it's all fine and good. But, I mean, do they really care? Like, from what I've read, Diaz, he's excited because he's going to get to pitch with his brother, who I guess is 3. He's never played on the same team as his brother. They're 3 or 4 years apart. So, they were always in, I guess, different age levels. One was on varsity. One was in junior high. He's going to get to pitch with it. He said his dream, it's not make it to the major leagues or get this contract. His dream is to close a game after his brother pitches the 8th. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to make that happen. Yeah. Whether it's the right choice or not. It's going to happen. Now that to me, that sounds like an all-star game. You're
not wrong. It's a glorified all-star game is what it is. So, I mean, you're not wrong in that sense. But as far as the World Baseball Classic goes, since it only comes around, every 4 years, they assume that people are going to tune in a lot more. I mean,
I think the South American countries get a big ratings.
Yeah.
I think the Central American, South America, I think they get big ratings.
It's because, like I said, because they feel like that, hey, we're competing against somebody, we have a chance to beat the USA, like stuff like that. And to me, again, like I said, I watch it, I follow it a little bit, I cover it, but I'm not a fan of it.
It's at 3 a.m. It's at 3 a.m. So I feel if I get up 3 a.m. and it's on, I'll watch it.
Exactly.
But if it's on at 8 o'clock and I got the Big East tournament or something like that, or the Ranger game or the Knicks, because now the Knicks are all of a sudden, the greatest team out there, I'll watch it. I'm going to watch that. I won't watch it. And I won't lose any sleep if USA wins or loses or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me because, what really matters at the end of the day is the ring. So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I don't have one of those damn things I'm for the Mets. I was 5 years old, so.
Well, moving into that, I mean, your podcast, man, I think you do great coverage. And one of the guests that you had on there, I thought it was just a phenomenal episode, was Steve Phillips, the former GM of the Mets from, I believe it was 97 to 03.
Yeah. Yeah, he was great. He was great. It was, listen, if you would have told me 15 years ago that I'm going to get to have Steve Phillips for 45 minutes, ask him whatever the hell I want to ask him, I would have been like, what are you, crazy? Be like, I got a lot of stuff to ask him, And he was great. I mean, to be honest with you, every time I get one of these guests that's like something like Steve Phillips or like a big name like that, I pinch myself. But a lot of them are just, they're just regular guys. He just went, he likes talking baseball.
Oh, of course.
So here it goes. He's going to talk some baseball when, he's probably checked out our show. He came on and we talked baseball for 45 minutes. And he gave some good stories about the Piazza, about Mike and the Mad Dog and how they took credit for it and for Piazza coming, and there was actually even a couple other stories that I didn't even get to ask him. And one of them was that one time he was Bobby Valentine was the manager, and they were playing the Phillies, and the Phillies GM came up to Steve Phillips and said to him, "Hey, why why is that camera behind the plate moving towards third base all the time? So he went down and asked the technician, the camera technician, and it was a kid, an intern or whatever, and the camera technician said, "Oh, Bobby V told me to move it down there, see if we could get some of their signs." And he said, no, you're not allowed to do that. Don't do that. If anybody tells you to do that, you come to me. So Steve Phillips had to go and he apologized to the Phillies, to the GM. He called Major League Baseball, told them what had happened, apologized, said it wouldn't happen again, and then went to Bobby V, and they butted heads all the time, and said to him, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's like, "I figured we'd get some signs if we could." And think about that. Like, that's something that I didn't know. I'm not sure. It looks like you might have never heard about that.
No, that was a brand new story for me. And to be honest, I enjoyed it too.
Yeah, like that's the Mets trying to steal signs, I mean, and and kudos to Steve Phillips too.
Oh yeah,
because he had he went and he did the ethical thing. He went and he told on himself. He called MLB and was like, "Hey, listen, this is what we did. I caught it. We're not going to do it again. Sorry." Apologize to the Phillies. So he did the right thing, Yeah,
a lot of people, I don't know, right away. I mean, Steve Phillips is regarded as one of the most aggressive GMs and could have been probably one of the top 5 best GMs if it wasn't for the later years from like 2001 to 03. So,
yeah, he kind of let there were certain moves that kind of he didn't give people the Mike Hampton. After Mike Hampton led them to the World Series, he wouldn't give him I think it was $75 million or something. So he left, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. And they just then they were bad teams. The Mets were bad teams in those early 2000s.
Well, especially
after
because
the World Series.
Yeah, because I mean, again, he was regarded as one of the best very early on because he built that team with Piazza, with Ventura, Al Leiter, all those guys, and you get to the World Series in 2000s, and I think in 2000, and I think the fans, at that point they were like, "Hey, this is our guy. He's going to do whatever it takes to get us the team to get to the World Series because of how aggressive he was." And I think he was still trying to make those aggressive moves, and they just weren't panning out. I mean, these are ball players. They decline with age. They, you could say, "Hey, it was a bad move," but realistically, if they would have produced, it would have been a good move. So,
yeah, he made some good moves. He made some bad moves. I mean, there were a couple bad moves. He let players go. The Piazza thing, to me, the Piazza thing's a no-brainer. Okay. Yeah. The big thing what he did with the Piazza thing was not, I want to get Piazza. Of course you want Piazza. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He was going to be a Hall of Famer when he came to the Mets. It was convincing the Wilpons to spend the money.
Yeah, because
it was interesting to me that
I think it was 7 years, $91 million, and at that
it was
time,
like 7 years, $90 million, something like that.
At that time, that was like the biggest contract out there.
Yeah, and then also with another interesting thing that he went through that I always found interesting was A-Rod.
Yeah,
A-Rod grew up a Mets fan. A-Rod wanted to come to the Mets, and they never even got to the money situation. Talk of it, because the stuff he wanted was just outrageous. I mean, you heard it on the interview. He wanted his own suite. He wanted to fly private while the rest of the team chartered the plane. He wanted to have his own tent at spring training. He wanted to have a separate locker room where he could do meet and greets. He wanted to know how many billboards the Mets were putting up with him on it compared to the amount of that Jeter was going to be on across town. And on top of that, he wanted $252 million. And he wanted $252 million, and it had to be that because at the time, the number one top athlete earner, salary was Kevin Garnett.
And that was what? He had 250, wasn't it?
No, Kevin Garnett he wanted to double Kevin Garnett's.
Oh,
so he had 126.
Gotcha.
So he had 252, and the Rangers gave it to him. The Rangers gave it to him, and of course he wanted a bunch of opt-outs. So he opted out, and he ended up going to the Yankees. And listen, like you said, they won the title with him. He did win the title with the Yankees. He was he's a steroid guy. He's a great player, though. He was a great player. I mean,
The
I don't know how you
steroid
feel about the
era
steroids.
is a whole different conversation because steroids, while they make people stronger, maybe they don't make them more athletic. In my eyes, they don't really make them more athletic, because they were already great to begin with. And
Yes.
They were just trying to find an edge against their competitor at the time, and that's all they were doing. And they figured out, hey, this is going to help me run from, 30, 40 homers to 50 to 60. So, they found the edge. They used it. Again, it's the steroid era. To me, those guys like Barry Bonds, to me, should not be denied the Hall of Fame.
No. There are certain players that should be Barry Bonds. I mean, Barry Bonds. We've never seen anything like Barry Bonds before because he would come up and with the bases loaded, and they would intentionally walk him. That's crazy. That's craziness. To walk him, walk in a run. He would hit 70 home runs. Now there were people like Andy Pettit who took him. He said to heal quicker, have his arm feel better later in the season. And then there were people. You know what? They were all taking him.
Yeah, that's why it was the steroid era. Everybody was doing it.
Todd Hundley on the Mets was taking him. He was the catcher. He took him. A lot of people took him, but someone like Bonds and Clemens and A-Rod, and these guys, they were Hall of Famers without it,
right?
And they got kind of caught up. And baseball players been taking drugs like that forever.
Well,
okay?
and that's my thing too, is because they say hitting the fastball is the hardest thing to do in any sport. Out of all the sports, hitting a fastball is the hardest. So, 90 plus miles an hour, steroids are not. If you don't have good hand-eye coordination, you don't have a good swing, you don't have the good mechanics to back you behind the steroids, then like you said, they were already great to begin with. So
yeah, you're hitting a round ball with a round bat. And
right.
if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you go to the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So I mean, it's clearly, it's a failure sport. It's kind of like golf. I always say nobody's good at golf. Like it takes years to become bad at golf. It takes years to be bad at golf. Like you're embarrassing in the beginning. You're like, oh, this is gonna be easy. Drink some beers, hit the ball, and you're swinging and missing, and the ball's not moving up there.
Yeah.
This ball's coming at you. But it's not an easy sport. I couldn't hit. I'm not exactly built like them. I could use some of the steroids, but I mean, it's a hard thing. Think about it. They're doing the shift now. They outlawed the shift, how they do it like that. But I've seen multiple teams now take guys when a right-hander's up, take the right fielder, and they put him as kind of like a rover, softball kind of, short. The whole right field is open. You hit a line drive, base hit over second base, home run. Inside the park, you can walk around, right? And they still pull it. And
they're being paid millions to do so. And that's the thing that you have to think about behind it is that if these guys are supposed to be the best in the world and are being paid millions to do so and are still pulling that baseball, how good were these guys that you are saying that shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, they teach them to pull it, though, for some reason. For whatever reason. They don't want, like someone like a Jeff McNeil. He's not somebody that they think he won a batting title last year. He's a real good hitter.
I love
He's
Jeff
not the kind of guy they're looking for. Now they're all about home runs. Hit the ball in the air, launch angle, and, and
not only is Jeff McNeil just probably one of the best batters in baseball, but he's also probably one of the most humble guys out there, too. I read a story about him that he still drives his 1989 Corolla to spring training.
Yeah. Well, who was it? Oh, Lindor. Lindor said that if he wins the batting title, he will buy him a car, whatever, BMW, Mercedes, whatever. And they asked him about it when they came to spring training this year. And McNeil was like, no, I haven't had it yet. I've been asking him about it. And he's like, yo, about that car, bro. You think I could get that? You think like, can we do that next week? You know, because he's still, he's a California guy though. You know, so he's, he's kind of like, one of those, like a surfer. You can see it with the long hair and stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know, he's like a hippie kind. He's like a yuppie kind of guy. But I'm glad he stayed. He's one of my favorite players on the team. Him and Nimmo are kind of like throwback, old school kind of players. Yeah. You know, they play the game hard. They play the right way. They're diving around. They're like that. They're not a pretty boy, but I like Nimmo. And Nimmo was a big signing for the Mets, and McNeil was a big signing for the Mets because I love McNeil. I got my McNeil jersey and everything. I still feel like even right now, even though he won the batting title, I still feel like that he's underrated as a baseball player. Yeah, because he doesn't hit home runs. He doesn't hit home runs. And like actually Steve Phillips had said this last week or whenever we did it with him 2 weeks ago in the interview, he's not the kind of guy that's valued because he's all batting average. He doesn't steal bases. He doesn't hit for power. He's a slap hitter and he's a good hitter and he'll get base hits and you can count on him. He's gonna move the guys around.
Oh yeah, I've seen that guy come up in clutch situations more times than I can count.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, he came through. He was great last year. Batting title, and then we went to the playoffs and we crapped the bed. Let me just fix my phone here real quick. All right, sorry about that.
Technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties. I listen. I can't even hang a picture on a wall. My wife's that's her department. I can't do any of this stuff. I just talk it. I just talk it. You can't play it, talk. Those who can't do teach. Those who can't teach Jim. Right? You've heard that saying before.
Yeah.
I can't even teach Jim.
So. Well, going forward here, I think this next one kind of brings both of our, baseball cultures together because you're out there with the Mets. I'm out here with Chicago. That Javier Baez trade was probably one of the worst trades in Mets history, in my opinion, because don't get me wrong, he played in 42 games. He batted 299, had like 9 home runs or something like that. So, I mean, it's not that he didn't produce really, but he was aggravating the Mets fan base. He didn't re-sign with the Mets because the whole point of him wanting to go to the Mets was to play with Lindor. That was the whole thing. And then
they were giving the thumbs down to the. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That what I tell you in the beginning. I told you Lindor will get himself in trouble.
Yeah. Well, that's just because Lindor's more of a follower than anything else. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's goofy and stuff like that, but Baez is that guy who has no filter, will say anything, do anything, because if he's not doing well at the plate and not getting cheered for it, it's almost like a narcissistic personality type of thing.
Yeah, he's a jerk. Because he's always gotten everything he wanted. He was always the best player on his team. He was always probably getting the ladies and getting everything he wanted. And he's a jerk. That will turn you into a jerk. If you've been spoiled and told how great you are and nobody tells you how, anything bad, it'll turn you into a jerk,
Oh, yeah. And don't get me wrong. For anybody that's watching or anything like that watches after we're done with this, Javier Baez, just because he's a jerk doesn't mean he's a bad ball player. The guy makes amazing plays. The guy's called the magician for a reason. Like, did he help the Cubs win the World Series? 100%. But I don't feel like that. I feel like that the Mets got cheated out of that trade because then we got Pete Crow-Armstrong out of it, who is now our number 1 prospect in the Cubs organization.
Well, I mean, that's what's going to happen though. The Cubs were terrible. What are you going to do? You're going to why bother having Baez, right? You weren't going anywhere that year.
It was a fire sale out there.
Yeah, because they were terrible. They weren't going anywhere. They had to rebuild. Why are you going to sit here and pay this guy all this money, this jerk, right? You're going to pay him all this money. He's going to be miserable because they're not going anywhere. He's not getting, the accolades that he wants. So they traded him to a contender, the Mets, with his buddy. there'd be a double play combination, and listen, the Mets, the Mets, then the Mets are the Mets, so they screwed it up. Of course, they screwed it up.
Well, I
But
mean,
it was a rental.
Mets fans should be happy though because he went to Detroit and just had an absolute miserable time in Detroit, and he looks like the player that he was when he first came up to the Cubs, where he just strikes out, has no discipline at the plate, and looks like he's going to throw his back out every time he swings the bat.
Yeah, well, he's an all or nothing type of hitter. He'll when he makes contact, it'll go, and he doesn't hustle. He's a good ball player, like you said. Just if you're a jerk, that doesn't mean you can be. There's a lot of jerks that are good ball. Barry Bonds was a jerk. Look at like Ty Cobb was a racist. There's a lot of throughout history. There's a lot of bad.
Oh yeah,
people that they're good ball players. That don't matter. Keith Hernandez, great in the booth. Love Keith Hernandez, right? He's a jerk. I've met him multiple times. He's a jerk, and I hate the fact that I even say that because I love Keith Hernandez.
It's one of those things where because if you're a good ball player on TV, it's all personality. That's all it is. It's all personality, and then outside of TV, outside of television, that's when you develop who they really are. The true colors are out there. I mean, that's one reason why I loved Harry Carey as far as an announcer wise, because Harry Carey was himself every broadcast. That guy would get drunk in a broadcast, and he just did not care. And he would say anything about any of the players, about any of the teams. It didn't matter.
But by the time you started watching Harry Carey, he was already Harry Carey.
Yeah.
He could do no wrong. He could say anything. It's like John Sterling with the Yankees. How many times is it you're not really sure what's going on in the game when you're listening to Sterling and Susan. You'll get a lot of it is high, it is far, it is gone, foul. Or you get that all the time, but it's a performance. He puts on a performance, and he's all right. And he's got the voice, he's got the good pipes for it, but he's already who he is. By the time you I don't know how old you are, but you don't look old. By the time you started watching Cubs, Harry Carey probably already had his glasses and painting thing on there, right? He was already singing.
No, that's very true. But before you came on the show, Tony and I were having a discussion, though. I just shaved. So I had the beard. I have a baby face underneath my beard. So we actually talked about that somebody was going to say that I was younger. And it just so turns out that I haven't even been outside the house yet since I shaved. And you already said that
he actually emailed me before and he told me to mention it.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
No. I mean, that makes total sense. He was like, by the way.
I'm just kidding.
Austin shaved his face and he looks like he's got a baby's ass and a nose. So
my favorite Harry Carey is Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Will Ferrell. If the moon were made of cheese, would you eat it? That was great. Awesome. But yeah, listen, sometimes some people are jerks, some people are just jerks. Some people aren't. Some people are the nicest guys ever. Look at, just in the NFL, look at Aaron Rodgers. He's a weirdo.
Oh, yeah.
Talking, he's going into the darkness and he's,
Dark retreat.
What are you doing? There's a lot of weird people out there. Look at even the NBA, Trae Young. Trae Young's got everything going for him. He's waving around a gun in a strip club on live streaming.
That was Ja, wasn't it?
Well, who? Oh, yeah. John Morant. I'm sorry. Who did I say? Trae Young?
Yeah.
See, I'm still upset about the Trae Young with the Knicks thing a couple years ago. So I got that in my head.
Oh no, I saw
Morant,
the Ja thing today, and I was like, that's insane. I mean, he's one of the best shooters out there. As far and no pun intended when he's waving around a gun, I mean,
but you can't who the hell do you think you are, and what are you doing waving a gun around?
It's funny what money does to people, And
it's not even money kids, though. That's not necessarily true. Because he could have been doing that. Because there's a lot of people with money that listen. I deal with these people all the time, with the inmates. I work at Rikers Island. I tell them all the time, these kids, they all in on gun charges. I say, what are you doing with a gun? And if you wanted a gun, you could have had a gun. You're an American citizen. Go down to Texas or something. You came to the wrong state to carry an illegal gun. Yeah. Go down to Florida or Texas. You could throw a machine gun on your back and walk through Walmart.
Yeah.
Well, in New York,
My thing behind it is that like all the domestic violence charges in baseball now that we see, I feel like, don't get me wrong, though that's who those people were before they got the money, but I feel like the money made them even more power hungry, where they were like, who do you think you're talking to? I make $25 million a year, and it's like, I don't know. They feel like they can get out of anything. I mean, look at how bad that Trevor Bauer situation was in LA.
Yeah, but he's just a bad guy. They were just some bad people.
Oh, yeah.
Trevor Bauer's a bad guy. Like, that was some bad stuff. Yeah. And there was one in the NFL. I forget who it was. It was a running back. The video came out this week.
Oh, recently? This is recently.
Yeah, just this week. And he's beating the hell out of his girlfriend. Like, he's picking her, and he's an NFL running back, right? So he's a big dude.
Yeah.
She's not very big. He picks her up, he throws her, then he goes and he's hitting her. 6 months. He got 6 months in jail. And you watch that video and you're like, I might not know anything about anything, but 6 months seems a little, a little low for what I just watched.
Yeah.
So, and domestic violence is the kind of thing that you don't realize how bad it is until you see it.
Yeah,
that's what domestic violence is.
I struggle with this sport is that I feel like, all sports, all professional sports, college sports, coaches and owners will do anything to keep their best players in the game. And it's like sometimes that thinking is just not ethical and morally just wrong.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not ethical, but they're not going to be ethical. That's why we have regulations on businesses, because nobody's going to do the right thing unless you force them to. Okay, right. As for when it comes to money and stuff like that. Now, everybody likes to get on these players about, you're making $30 million to play a game. Yeah, but you know what? They don't get – it fascinates me how everybody hates the players for making the money, but you hear nothing about the billionaire owners, right? It's like they hate the millionaire. And the amount of money some of these owners have, the Mets owner has $40 billion. And he'll do trades where it's he just made another $10 billion. And you're like, that's crazy. The amount, the difference between me and you and $20 million is a lot closer. We're a lot closer to those people as far as financials than someone with $20 million is to Steve Cohen.
Oh, yeah.
So, and everybody hates on the play. Oh, you're making all this money to play a game. Yeah, well, what about the billionaire owners? You don't hate on them.
Oh, yeah, and he's the one paying them, and he's still blowing all the other money, too. But the thing is, though, is that the fans get mad at the players. If you're so mad, then just stop going to the game. Stop spending money on jerseys. Stop doing all this stuff. But you don't, because you love the sport. Yeah, so if you love the sport and you're willing to spend the money, then don't rag on the players.
Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry with those technical difficulties. Yeah, listen. The fans aren't going to do that. Listen. It happened here in New York. All right, they tried to a couple years ago boycott the Knicks, or they would picket outside the Garden. Nobody shows up because we got better things to do. Okay, the sports is the toy store. It's not your job. It's not your you don't want to go. You don't want to spend the money. Tickets are expensive. Baseball is something that you could take your family to because it's relatively cheap. If you play StubHub right, you could go to a Mets game for $15. I've gone to playoff games for $130.
Even when the Cubs were, World Series team 2016, 2017, on good days, I could take my entire family, my wife, my kids, and we could all go, and I could spend less than $50 to get into the stadium.
Exactly.
So, like you said, I mean, baseball is a relatively cheap game. It's the games that everybody else wants to see. If everybody wants to see it, then, there's a demand for it, so the price is going to be higher. So,
well, yeah. Absolutely. There are some games that are high. I don't go to opening day. Right. I'm not an opening day guy. I'm not we got to go every opening day. I've been there 20. I'm just not that person. Because to me, you're going to pay $75, $100. That's going to be the get in price. Minimum price, standing room, or up in left field, fair territory, something like that. And then the next day, I could sit 10 rows off the dugout for $20.
Right.
The games mean the same. The weather is just as crappy. And I save myself money where I could go now with that extra $150. I could go get myself 2 beers and a pretzel.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. But we got a little off track there, but going back, that trade that we had with Javier Baez, Pete Crow-Armstrong, I think it was great. I think the Mets lost. The Cubs won that trade, obviously. The Mets lost just because they lost Baez after 42 games.
Well, yeah, I think, that's the kind of thing. He was a rental. It wasn't guaranteed that they were going to sign him. They were going for it. If you're buyers at the trade deadline, though, you take risks like that. You got to mortgage your future.
In 2016, I mean, they traded almost their whole farm system away for Aroldis Chapman, and then Aroldis Chapman got us to the World Series. He closed out all the games that we needed him to, and then
he left you and went right back.
Yeah,
right. Then he left you and went right back. So that was what, the Yankees, right?
Yeah.
So the Yankees won. So you both won that one.
Yeah, we did.
Because you rented Chapman for 2-3 months, got a title, and the Yankees got a bunch of your farm system, good players, good prospects, and then he went back to the Yankees right after.
Yeah, one of those prospects being Gleyber Torres, who is now just doing phenomenal with them. So,
yeah, but I'm okay with trading prospects because, like I said, they're prospects.
Yeah,
the majority of them do not pan out. The majority of them don't pan out.
If you're not a top 10 prospect, chances are of you panning out in getting to the major leagues in the next 5 years is probably in the 1 to 5% range.
Yeah, even if you are a top 10 prospect, even if you are a top 10 prospect, but a lot of them don't pan out. Yeah. I just told you, there was posters on my wall, Generation K. Okay, we were ready. We were ready for championships. No hitters. We didn't even have a no hitter. Nothing until a couple years ago when Johan pitched one. I mean, but I'd be willing to give prospects for someone who's a proven major league talent, especially if I got a chance at the trade deadline. That's what it is. That's the game that GMs play. If you want to go for it, I'm going to give this team that stinks a lot of my prospects, and I'm going to get their good player, and we hopefully win, and hopefully for them they turn out to be good players.
No, I mean, that's the name of the game. But speaking of no-hitters, though, the Cubs, they threw a no-hitter on Friday against the Padres. And while I definitely believe that, like we talked about earlier, these are spring training games, these guys are just getting into it, it doesn't mean a lot. It really doesn't. But it's the first time since 2017 that there's been a no-hitter in spring training. And on top of that, I think what's good about it and what's worth mentioning is that you had 6 pitchers come in and just absolutely dominate for your team. That is a huge sign moving forward, seeing is that you need bullpen help, especially guys like Justin Steele, Brad Boxberger, and Javier Assad. These guys on the Cubs, they're expected to make an impact. So if they're going to come out and they're throwing 2 shutdown innings with, no errors, nothing like that, strikeouts are good, no base on balls, it was a good game. It was enjoyable to see, and a no-hitter's a no-hitter. So obviously, it's fun to rub it in the face that the Cubs no-hit the Padres. But, at the end of the day, though, by the 5th inning, they were playing all their bottom edge guys. So
it was probably a split squad game. They probably had a game going on out in the other. I mean, do you really consider that a no-hitter? Did the Cubs really no-hit the Padres? Like, would you say that to somebody? Well, I remember a couple years ago we no-hit the Padres.
No. See, that's taking it out of context. This is
okay.
This is strictly spring training talk. After spring training, none of this matters. So did the Cubs no hit the Padres up until opening day? Sure. If you want to say they did, then yeah.
Fair point.
But in my eyes, though, it's not about the no hitter. It's about the 6 pitchers that came in and just absolutely dominated. So to have 6 pitchers,
Padres got a good lineup.
Yeah, and I mean, even their farm system. I mean, it's not top 10, but I mean, these guys are still being paid to play baseball. Okay, sorry.
Oh,
no, I was just saying these are professional players. So pitchers coming in throwing against professional baseball players. You expect them to at least put 1 hit on the board. So the Cubs should feel good going into opening day, knowing with the rotation and the bullpen that they have with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you the question I have, and it did not even the no hitter. They had a good game. They pitched well, and the Cubs got the Cardinals in the division. The Cardinals win every year, right? Always. But where are the Padres getting this money? Where are they getting the money? Why are they throwing around? Why the Padres are a small market team, right?
So I forgot to mention this.
$500 million. Where are they getting the money? Where's the owner getting the money?
I forgot to mention this on one of my last episodes because I had the stat written down, but I know it is very close to this number. But the Padres spent in total in the offseason somewhere around $869 million in terms of salary and stuff like that. And re-signing players, Fernando Tatis Jr., Juan Soto, all these guys, right? And the other stat was that like 4 teams combined in the offseason only reached like $400-something million. So, and that was combined. So, I mean, that's a good question on where they're shelling out the money from.
And it's the Padres. Listen, it killed me last year that the Mets lost like that because it's the Padres. They're the Padres. They're the Padres. Like I said, they have. I think it was the stat I heard. Well, I'm trying to think what it was. It was like of the top 24 all-time highest contracts. Like 9 of them are the Padres.
Yep.
Like when you that would be probably one of my last guesses. If the only people below them might be like the Marlins and the Devil and the Rays.
Now, is this? I mean, obviously, if they're going to pay that much, then clearly they're going for a World Series, which is why in my very first episode, I couldn't directly pick until I see later closer to the All-Star break. But I said it's either going to be the Texas Rangers or the San Diego Padres who win the World Series.
You mean this year coming up that we're going to really?
Yeah.
Well, you think DeGrom's going to be a factor?
That's why I got to wait till the All-Star break to make a very definitive decision.
No, you don't get to wait. You got to make the pick now. That's cheating.
I'm going to
wait till the ALCS and then I'm going to make my pick.
In my really cheating, there's 30 teams and I knocked it down to 2.
Okay, and listen, they have those are probably decent picks. They're decent picks. I mean, obviously, you could go chalk, and you could say the Mets, the Yankees, or the Astros. Those are probably the best teams. But the Padres, I can see the Padres. I can see them. They made it in 98. They lost to the Yankees. But as far as the Rangers, I'm not sure. I think DeGrom's already hurt. I mean, that was like we dodged a bullet with DeGrom and I love DeGrom, and he was with one of I've never seen anything like it, but he just he wasn't there enough.
But the problem that I have with the Rangers, the problem I have with the Rangers is really DeGrom, right? If he can fall through, I mean, and they have Ordizzi on there too, Jake Ordizzi. They got some strong guys to fill their rotation. But it's a matter of staying healthy because last year, the Texas Rangers were the top 5 in all of baseball of runs scored. But they were in the bottom in terms of ERA. So it doesn't matter how many runs you score if you give up 2 or 3 more than you score.
Yeah, that's why they threw the kitchen sink at DeGrom. They were the only ones coming near $100 million. And listen, like I said, DeGrom, I'm glad he's gone. I have no problems with DeGrom. I don't wish him ill will. I'm not glad he's hurt. Some Mets fans are like, oh, look, see, we're glad. I think he's seen his best days. He will still be a dominant pitcher just because he was unhittable. I mean, it was like events here. It was like, now I remember when Harvey pitched, it was like that for a little while. Dark night, and I was actually at the World Series game where they lost. I tell people I saw the Royals win the World Series one time live in person. I was at that game, and I'm not going to sit here on Monday morning. I was rooting for him to come out in the 9th inning, and it was something else. And when Harvey pitched a Harvey day, I remember all over Facebook and everything. And DeGrom was better, and I would imagine that's what it was like with Gooden in '85 with the Mets, and I would imagine a little bit kind of like Sandy Koufax as well. Now,
Yeah.
Sandy Koufax was an all-time, but he only did it for a couple years. Sandy Koufax only did it for like 5 or 6 dominant years.
No, that's the same thing with Clayton Kershaw. I mean, Clayton Kershaw was so dominant. The problem now is he lost his velocity. His spin rate on his breaking balls aren't as high as they used to be. So, and he can't really stay healthy. He's got these back problems that keep coming up almost every season now. So, again.
No, I think Kershaw's done it long enough. I think Kershaw's done it long. Listen, Kershaw, he's a different kind of pitcher. DeGrom was kind of, I'm going to throw it by you.
Oh, yeah.
Mano. Here it is. I'm going to throw it as hard as I can, try and hit it. And that's what Gooden was, and that's what Harvey was too. Kershaw was like a lefty, soft tossing lefty, but had an unhittable curveball, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of, who I would say is kind of like who would have been, who you would even know, Kerry Wood.
Kerry Wood. I mean, Kerry Wood had a good fastball.
Oh, he was great. He was throwing it by everybody. He was throwing 102 miles an hour.
Yeah.
He just got injured.
Kerry Wood and he had that 20 strikeout game that he's known for. I mean, it was great. Nolan Ryan is another one of those guys that could just absolutely fire baseballs.
Well, Nolan Ryan, Verlander's Nolan Ryan. Because now, Nolan Ryan, listen to this. I mean, and every time I even say it, it's crazy. I even just think about it. Nolan Ryan pitched for the 69 Mets, right? He was on the 69 Mets, okay? I was born in 81. So that means I probably don't really remember anything before like 87, 88. I remember Nolan Ryan pitching for like many years. He was on the 69 Mets. Like, you go look at, and like the fact that and he played forever. Yeah. And he pitched and he threw it hard. He was like one of them like country fastball. Like he was like that. Like they don't really build him like that anymore. Verlander's somewhat like that. Nolan Ryan, a lot of times when pitchers who throw it that hard, when they get older, they have to learn how to pitch.
Oh, yeah.
They say it like that. You're going to have to learn. Now you can't just throw it by everybody. You got to learn how to pitch. Nolan Ryan never really had to learn how to pitch.
My aunt's sister's husband is Dan Herron, who pitched for a really long time, like 14 seasons in the MLB. But when he first came in, he was throwing probably about 95, 96. And by the time that he ended his career, he actually pitched with the Cubs. And then I think he retired after the Cubs. It was either because he got traded at the All-Star break from Miami to Chicago, and we went to a few games to go see him. And at that point, his fastball was 88 miles an hour. So,
yeah, I mean, but if you know how to place it, and a lot of these guys, 88 looks like 20. When you just see
that's Kyle Hendricks for you still. I mean, that's Greg Maddux type of pitching right there. So
yeah. I mean, Dan Herring is not Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux is, and Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux, and I know Greg Maddux because the Braves win, every year. My whole life growing up, the Braves.
Yeah.
Won. They won like 15 straight, and it was Maddux, Smoltz, Glavine, and those guys, and Andrew Jones, and Who got into the Hall of Fame this year? Who got elected to the Hall of Fame?
I didn't watch it this year. I
wanted to ask your opinion because Andrew Jones, is Andrew Jones a Hall of Famer in your mind? Because I had this argument with somebody the other day.
I mean, I think that's a no-brainer to me.
I think so too.
If if you don't think that Andrew Jones is a Hall of Famer, then you clearly didn't follow the Braves.
Yeah. Well, he was a lot of people say he might have been a steroid guy because he fell off a cliff. Like his numbers just fell off a cliff. But that's who it was. Scott Rowland. Scott Rowland got elected. Now, to me, Scott Rowland, I say no. To me. I mean, I watched Scott Rowland because now we're at the age where these guys who we watched are now going into the Hall of Fame. I'm a hard grader when it comes to the Hall of Fame. I'm like, I can watch you, and if you ask me somebody, if I don't say right away yes, then I don't think they're a Hall of Famer. I think they put too many people in there. Scott Rowland's not a Hall of Famer.
Well, the way that they're doing the Hall of Fame now, it's almost like people are starting to get upset that Pete Rose isn't in there now because it's like you're letting everybody else in. Why are you still holding these guys out? I mean, the guy bet on baseball. Okay, well, I can go on DraftKings right now and bet on baseball.
Yeah, but Pete Rose, he could have got in. Pete Rose shoves it in baseball's face.
Yeah.
Pete Rose goes down there every year in Cooperstown during Hall of Fame weekend. He holds his own signing thing. He screwed up so many times. Like, it wasn't that he just bet on baseball, which is bad enough. Now, I bet on his team. I get it. This and that. But we could go through the whole thing about how it's bad that you bet on your team because you blow your bullpen out tonight because you have 10 grand on the game and you sacrifice the next couple games. So that whole thing is bad anyway. But he had his chance to apologize, and he writes books, and he does book signings right in Cooperstown on Hall of Fame week. Like, he's just, he's a bitter old man, and he's a gambling junkie too. He's a gambling junkie. So
yeah, he's Pete Rose though.
I agree. Listen, I think he should be in there. He's the all-time hit king, right? It's not even close.
He's Pete Rose. I mean, that's one of those things,
They just lifted the lifetime ban from the Braves ex-general manager who had a lifetime ban for something with it was with the international players. He was pulling some kind of stunts with the international players, and he got banned for life. You know how long the lifetime ban lasted? 5 years. Shoeless Joe Jackson's still banned.
Yeah.
And it's basically been coming out that he didn't do much. He didn't throw that World Series.
Yeah, he did it, and he also apologized for it too. So
yeah, he didn't know, he couldn't read and stuff. So they just kind of, and he didn't throw. He hit like 330 during that series.
Yeah,
So,
that's
the White Sox. That's the other side of town. That's
the Black Sox.
Yeah. But they're the White Sox. They just call them the Black Sox because of that. But I mean, that was a good movie, 8 Men Out. But yeah, and White Sox fan, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I'll watch it if it's on, but am I going over there rooting that? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's guys on that team that I want to see successful. Like Luis Roberts is one of those guys on the White Sox where he's so talented. He could be a Mike Trout level caliber player if he stays healthy. So it's like, yeah, I want to see this guy have good success, but am I over there rooting for the Sox to win the World Series? Oh God, no.
And what a waste. Mike Trout, what a waste, right? I mean, the Angels, how bad did could the Angels screw this up anymore? Every year.
I'm gonna say this.
Mike Trout, you don't even see him out here on the East Coast because he's playing at 11 o'clock at night on a team that's losing 100 games every year.
I'm gonna say this while we're on the show now, so this way I can go back and show everybody later. Next year, Shohei Ohtani will be on the Cubs.
Yeah, well, I'll say this so we can go back. He'll be on the Mets.
He'll be on the Cubs. He'll be on the Cubs.
I mean, do you want him? Because listen, he can't pitch and hit forever.
Oh no!
And he kind of takes one away from the other. If he's going to be pitching, he's kind of like a circus act. I want him on the Mets because he's great now. But how long is he going to be able to pitch and hit?
Yeah, but
and play the field.
That's also the Mike Trout argument that people are starting to have, is that now Mike Trout is starting to decline in performance and starting to get injured more. He's not great anymore. You can't get for what Mike Trout was back in 2015. You cannot get what he is now in terms of trading.
No, I mean, but Mike Trout. I mean, they wasted him. He's won nothing.
Yeah.
How many? What is he? I could probably count on one hand the amount of playoff games Mike Trout's played, and that's when he become a legend.
He wanted that though.
Yeah, you're right. He was happy out there. So I mean, I guess whatever He made his money. He's a great player.
Opportunity. He was a free agent, all that stuff, and decided that he was going to re-sign with the Angels, and he was going to be an Angel for life.
Yeah, I guess more power to him. I guess if as long as he enjoys it. But I feel like when you're out on that West Coast, and it's probably an East Coast bias. When you're playing the Gale, there's a lot of people on the East Coast.
Yeah,
and the East Coast is a big baseball. Philly, the New York, Atlanta. Like we got big cities here. That are big baseball towns. New York's a big baseball town. We don't see Mike Trout. He's playing at 1 a.m. for a team that's losing 90 games every year. They're terrible. They can do nothing right. They draft 1 million pitchers. Like they drafted 20 straight pitchers.
Trout was in Philly for the Super Bowl, or he went out to see the Eagles play in the Super Bowl. And I mean, he's from Philly, and he loves it there. And all that keeps going through my mind is how insane would it be if you had Bryce Harper and Trout on the Phillies.
But like the home run that Harper hit last year, right? You remember it?
Yeah.
He hit the home run that won him the pennant.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Does Mike Trout even have a moment close to that? He's a better player. Listen, he's a better player than Bryce Harper. Does Mike Trout have a moment anywhere near the moment that Bryce Harper had last year in the league championship series? He doesn't. The answer is no.
Yeah,
he's on a losing team.
The biggest memory that he has there in Anaheim is his leaping catch that he has up against the wall. And he did that so many times now that people don't even really remember it anymore. But that's what he was originally known for, was he made that catch.
But he was supposed to be Mickey Mantle. He could have been. He could have been.
Yeah.
He's Mickey Mantle. He's pretty close.
Yeah.
He's a great hitter. He just gets buried out there and, playing for a losing team at the 1 a.m. Nobody's watching that here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people on the East Coast.
For the first time in I think it was 10 years or something like that, he got bumped down to number 2 on the all-time player list, and Aaron Judge was number 1. So. Yeah,
we'll see with Judge. Judge is old too. Judge is already 30-something,
Yeah, and to me, he's not as good as a defender as everyone makes him out to be. He's got a strong arm. I give him that.
He's big. He's sick, right? He's a big
He's
guy.
Almost 7 foot. He's 6'6", 6'7", or something like that.
So when he dives, out right center, he can catch something in left center just on the dive. He's one of those guys. The Knicks could have used him for a couple of years.
Our last segment on the show is injury updates. So our injury updates, obviously Vlad Jr., he had some soreness in his right knee or something like that. And Vlad Jr. is a player that, to me, he's proud to be a baseball player. He's proud to be his dad's son. And when I found out that he was sitting out of the World Baseball Classic, I was like, that's huge, because he knows how valuable he is to that team. And he doesn't want to be a legacy for a 4-week team. He wants to be a legacy for a team that he plays on for his whole career.
Yeah.
So I mean,
he's smart about it.
His 4 years, he's hit 284, 104 home runs, and 310 RBIs. And if you keep in mind there, in that 4 years, one of those years was a 60-game season in 2020 because of COVID. So, I mean, this guy could, if he had another 62 games or 80 games to play with there, he probably could be at, 125, almost 400 RBIs, and I mean, he's a great player.
His father was one of the best hitters I've ever seen. Speaking of somebody that actually did well with the Angels, Montreal Expos, his father could hit, his father would hit the ball that it would be down at his shoes, and he'd golf it into the second deck out in right field. His father could hit a bad ball. He was a great hitter. He had a great arm. And is he his father? I didn't know. He's probably not going to be as good. But he's one of the top players. He's one of the top players in the league.
As a hitter, you can see his father in him.
He's got a little bit of the swing.
Yeah.
His father was you don't teach that. You don't teach someone to swing like Vladimir Guerrero.
I saw this kid before he was even in the minors, and I was watching on MLB Network, and he was hitting off a tee, and the dude was hitting homers off a tee. And I was just like, that's absolutely just insane. And he was doing it from home plate. Who does that?
Yeah, listen, he did. Like I said, I guess it's in the genes. His father would, but he's got a long way to go before he's, as good as his father was.
Oh, no, I get
Cooperstown.
I get that. What I'm saying is that he is very smart for sitting out of the World Baseball Classic, letting himself get healthy, and giving his team a chance to win this year.
I agree.
So
I've been saying that the whole show.
He'll be back probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks maybe, and then he'll be ready for opening day. So Andrew Painter with the Phillies, he had a tender elbow issue, and so he is now I'm not going to say that, he's still one of their top prospects. He'll still get a rotation spot, but it looks like they're going to be passing that 5th rotation spot now for Bailey Falter, I think it is how you say his name. But
yeah, Hey, listen, any injuries on the Phillies, I'm good with. All right. Phillies came out of nowhere last year. That made me sick.
Yeah.
I was actually, that Philadelphia. I'm glad the Flyers at least are bad, but the Phillies, they came out of nowhere. Give them credit. They played in that first round and they made a run.
This kid though, Andrew Painter, in his 26 games in the minors, went 6-2 with a 1.48 ERA. I mean, the guy is probably going to end up being their number one starter eventually.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you get one, sub 2 ERA, of course. But the wins and losses isn't it? It was a bigger stat when we were kids than it is now.
Yeah. Well, the other one that we have on here, and I saw this one today, and it was terrible, was Justin Turner. He got hit in the face today.
Oh, did he? I didn't even see that.
Yeah, bottom of the first inning, he got hit in the face, and it was bad. I mean, there was blood pouring out of his mouth. It looked bad. They came out, they gave him the towel, they walked him back to the dugout. I just saw before we came on the show that his wife tweeted out that he's back at home, out from the hospital. There's no fractures, but he did have 16 stitches. So, I mean, he'll probably be out 4 to 6 weeks, but he'll be back, luckily.
4 to 6 weeks, really? Yeah. I mean, I guess, and you got to worry about him being gun shy then.
Yeah.
When I don't blame him if he is.
He'll have the different helmet. But what sucks is, coming over from the Dodgers, he was trying to prove himself as a Red Sox. So, that kind of sucks for him now because, he's going to get back in that box a little skittish. And,
I don't think Justin Turner has anything to prove to anybody. I mean, listen, Justin Turner, I know Justin Turner real well as a Mets fan. Okay, he was a utility third baseman, bench player for the Mets, went to the Dodgers and became a borderline Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Same thing like he's like a Jeff Kent, another one.
He was
all right with the Mets. Bam, left the Mets, Giants, borderline Hall of Famer. Yeah. I mean, and I don't think Justin Turner has anything to prove to anybody because the one good thing about Justin Turner too is he hits in big games. He gets big hits in big games. In October, he gets big hits. He'll be there when you need a big hit and you see Justin Turner sitting in the on deck circle. You feel better about it.
It doesn't matter if he had a 240 average and only 15 homers in the season. If he's up there in October, you trust him to buckle down and make that hit.
Yeah, and playing for the Dodgers, he got enough opportunities. And Justin Turner don't got to prove nothing to nobody. He's older now.
Well, my bone to pick that I have is that him getting hit in the face this early on, was that a result of this new pitch clock? Because was the pitcher feeling rushed? Was he coming down on time? He only had maybe a couple seconds and just threw the ball. I'd have to go back and watch and see where the pitch clock.
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I didn't even think of that, but that's a very good point. Yeah, you'd have to go back and watch it. What do you think of the pitch clock?
Me personally, I like it, but I think it needs to be longer.
No, but then that defeats the purpose.
Well, no, listen, I'm not saying that they need to give him 2 minutes, but you're giving a batter 7 seconds to get ready in the box. Give that batter 12 seconds instead of.
You don't think 7 seconds in between every pitch is enough for you to get back? What do you got to do? You want 12 seconds? You going to get a drink or something like they don't do it. There's nothing to do. They play with their gloves.
Unless they are. Because if you think about it this way, let's say Justin Turner didn't get hit in the face, dodged the pitch, fell on the ground. That guy now has to jump back up off the ground, grab his composure, jump right back in the box, and be ready to hit right away.
Okay, now that's a fair point. Now, I don't know. Is there any discretion that do the umpires have any discretion? Like if something like that happens, he gets brushed back.
Yeah, that I don't know yet because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it happen yet. I haven't heard about it. I haven't read about it. All I know is that, as far as I know, the rule is that the batter has to be ready by the 9-second mark.
Yeah. Yes. But it starts when it hits the pitcher's glove, right? Correct? When it comes back?
Yeah.
To the pitcher. Okay, so 7 seconds. I mean, if you 7 seconds is a long time. Okay, 7 seconds.
It can be, yeah. It can be like if you're just standing in there taking a pitch,
and you have and the batter has a timeout per at bat. He's got one at bat. Listen, you start making 12 seconds. What do you need 12 seconds to do? Would be my question to anybody. What are you doing? They're stepping out. They're playing with this. They're fixing that. No, get your ass in the box and get ready to hit. Just get hit. And the same thing goes for the pitchers. Now, what I like is they're gonna start playing games with it. They're gonna start the strategy around it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you're gonna see. Okay, he's thrown over here twice to first. He can't throw over again. Okay, there's 2 seconds on the clock. I'm gonna get a big jump on a steal a second. He's got to go. I know when he's going home now. If he let it drip down to 2 seconds on the pitch clock, I could get a bigger jump. Or like Scherzer was playing games. He was waiting till the end. He was quick pitching them.
He was trying to quick pitch, and they told him that he couldn't because he was cheating. And I'm like, whoa, what are you talking about?
Yeah, was he balk? Was it what they would call him balks on him, right?
Yeah. And
yeah, so
in my opinion, if you're trying to get the guy to pitch quicker, what's the problem with the quick pitch?
Yeah, but he was speaking of he was being a jerk about it. He would like he would take forever, and then like he would do it like. But you know what? It's spring training. Let him play around with it.
Yeah, I mean,
he doesn't
these guys
care if he gets a
adjust
violation now. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah,
play around with it. See what works.
At the end of this month, these games don't matter.
No. Listen, there's games that end in a tie. Okay. That's all you need to know about spring training. There was a game yesterday that they played the whole ninth inning with no umpires. Did you hear? I didn't see what game it was. I just read
that game's actually on my show. So it was the Baltimore Orioles against the Pirates, and the Pirates technically had like already won the game or something, and the umpire said, the Orioles said they still wanted to get some work in. And they were like, all right, well, we're not staying. So they walked off. So, and it just felt like a whole Sandlot game. I loved it. I thought it was great. These guys were having fun. And that's
so what they do? They called their own balls and strikes?
Yeah. You had the announcers, trying to do it too. He was like, what do you think, Jim?
Yeah, because I just saw the headline and I was like, what? But there's ties. And, spring training, that's what it's about, getting work in.
Yeah.
You'll see guys like running in the outfield, running wind sprints. That's what spring training is. Look, just don't get hurt. Just don't get hurt. We lost our fifth starter already. Quintana, I can live with Quintana getting hurt. That's not gonna ruin my day. But
speaking of getting hurt, we had Brendan Rodgers of the Rockies. Did you hear about that?
No.
So Brendan Rodgers went and dove for a ball or something like that in spring training, completely dislocated his shoulder, and then also now. They thought it was just a dislocated shoulder, but after MRIs and stuff, now he has to have surgery. It's season-ending surgery. The Rockies had to go and sign an older and underperforming Mike Moustakas to get coverage where he was gone. And first you lose Bryant last season, and then he only plays 42 games. And then you got Brendan Rodgers, who was supposed to be a huge contributor for you at second base this year, and now he's gone. So, I mean, the Rockies cannot catch a break. They can't.
No,
but they're also not willing to spend a ton of money, though, either. Don't get me wrong. They signed Bryant. But,
yeah, I was going to say they got Bryant. But,
other than that, I mean, they still weren't a good team when they had Tulowitzki, Nolan Arenado, Cargo. All these guys, they had them together, and they still weren't a good team. So, it's like, what do you need?
Yeah, I mean, the Rockies really have never been a good team. And a lot of people will tell you it's because of the stadium and the air and the home runs, and the pitchers don't want to go there. If you're a pitcher, do you really want to go sign in Colorado? And your ERA goes up a run, which is probably worth $5 or $6 million.
That's why it was so surprising that Kyle Freeland actually went and re-signed with them, because no one expected him to go. I mean, he was a good pitcher in Colorado, and everybody said, imagine what he would be out of Colorado.
Yeah. Is it really that big of a difference? I mean, I guess it is. I watched the Cubs game one time, and John Lester was going to pitch up there, and he was like, somebody was talking about where it was so bad to the point where they even needed oxygen. There wasn't enough spin on their ball. Like they had to, I don't know. It was crazy. So I've never been to the stadium. I wouldn't know. If I went to the stadium and I was like, man, I can't breathe as much as I can at Wrigley Field, then I'd say, yeah, it's probably an issue. I don't know. I mean, I've never been there. I guess it travels further, but they've never really been good. And you're right. But Tulowitzki and Arenado, when they had those guys, they got rid of them. They traded them on their walk years, right? Didn't they? Because they knew they weren't going to sign them because they were cheap.
Yep.
That's kind of how it went.
And that's what the Colorado Rockies are to me, are cheap. They're not willing to go out. Yeah, sure. They get your one guy who's supposed to carry the team, and then everybody else is on a budget. And that's pretty much
Todd Helton was their guy for a while.
That's pretty much what the Texas Rangers were for a long time until the last couple of years. So, I don't know.
Yeah, the Rangers, though. The Rangers made it to, the Rangers had that World Series 1 against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Wait,
you talking about 2000? What was that? 2004?
Yeah, the one with Freeze. Freeze hit the,
Yeah, we'll see
Game 6. Now, listen, as a Mets fan, I am willing to admit that the greatest Game 6 ever was that. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. They're down 2 runs, 2 outs, 2 strikes. Freeze hits rings one off the wall to tie the game. Then the next inning, the Texas takes a 2-run lead. They come back, and then Freeze hits the home run. And then on top of it, Joe Buck gets the call that his father had. We'll see you tomorrow night. I mean,
we'll see you tomorrow night. Yep.
Yeah. Come on. It doesn't get any better than that. That's even better than Drew Buckner's legs.
I'm gonna go to Busch Stadium in a Cubs jersey and see how friendly St. Louis fans are.
I heard they're very friendly.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that that stadium and the fans and the whole atmosphere out there is one of the best in baseball. So,
wouldn't you be friendly? You were winning division titles. The years that you're supposed to be terrible, you win in 80, 90, 95 games.
We have a reputation to upkeep. We're called the Friendly Confines, so we have to be friendly. Are you in Chicago? So I was in Chicago my entire life. I actually just moved to southern Indiana by Kentucky.
Okay. So you were in. Okay. So you're like Hawks and.
Oh yeah.
You a Chicago sports fan?
Oh yeah, Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs.
What do you think? I know it's a baseball show, but what do you think of Kane? Because we got Kane.
Oh yeah.
Is he done?
I mean, him and Kane and what's his name are reunited now.
Panarin.
Yeah, and oh god, the other guy.
Tarasenko.
No, I'm trying to think.
But yeah, I listen.
But Kane and one of the other guys from the Blackhawks, when they were on their Stanley Cup run, got reunited out there. So it's like, hey, good for you. Good for you. I'm happy for them.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I hope they do, because that's all I have. Like I said, Mets aren't winning much in my lifetime. I saw them lose a couple World Series. I got the Giants with Super Bowls, and I got the Rangers '94.
The Mets aren't far away. I'm telling you.
No, I know. But the Mets have been here close before.
So
close but no cigar. It's close but no cigar sometimes with this Mets team.
I got the Mets winning the World Series in the next 5 years. So
okay. Now listen, I wanted this year. I wanted it last year. Last year they were good. They were killing that division. How did the Braves cut? They blew that lead to the Braves, and then to go into Atlanta and get swept in that series.
Well, the Mets last year, didn't they have like at one point like a 18 to 20 game lead in the division?
Yeah, I don't know if it was 20 game lead, but they had like a 10 game lead in the division. They were sailing along in that division rather easily. And then the Braves it's not like the Mets lost it either. They didn't play bad. The Mets played all right. The Braves played like 800 ball.
Yeah.
They would lose like 2 games a month for like 2 months. And, you can't keep up with that. So they were gaining ground. And then they went into Atlanta for the 4-game series, big 4-game series, 2 weeks left in the season, and they swept all 4 of them from the Mets.
But here's the thing, though. The Braves, they won't win another World Series. I mean, I'm not saying they won't ever, but they're not going to – with the team that they won the World Series with that they had, that's gone. That's done. To me, they got lucky. Like you said, they were playing 800 ball. And in baseball, that kind of stuff doesn't happen.
No.
So the baseball gods were on their side, and it just so happened that they got caught
up. No, this was last year that they did that. They were playing 800 ball. They won the World Series 2 years ago. Last year it was the Astros. But even they lost some of their players. But I mean, the Braves were the Buffalo Bills for a while there. Yeah. They were in the World Series. They were winning 14 straight division titles in the World Series every year back in the 90s with then they finally did.
Yeah, and all those guys,
And they never won one. And then they won the one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, all these guys, they won't see another ring with the Braves at least. They might go to another team and whatnot, but they will. If they decide to retire a Brave, good for you. But I don't think the Braves are going to get there. So
yeah, well, we'll say. Listen, the Braves and the Cardinals. The Cardinals. I've never bet against the Cardinals. Yeah, every year.
So that's my issue. The Cubs, they need to play really good baseball to beat the Cardinals this year. Like all the guys they got out of free agency, like Mancini, Bellinger, all these guys are going to have to produce. Even if one of those guys doesn't produce, I'm telling you, the Cardinals are going to take it.
Yeah, but how many times have you said that in the past? And they had 90 wins in the NLCS winning, right? I mean, like it's just like so now I'm looking right now what the Cubs over under number is. The White Sox 83.5. Yeah, see the Cubs aren't very. Cubs are over under. Do you know what it is?
No, probably.
What do you think it is?
Probably 200.
No, over under like amount of wins.
Oh, over under on wins. I think that they're going to be a over 500 team this year. I think they're going to be probably around 85.
Okay. That's a little. Vegas has them at 77.5.
Yeah, no, I got them being a winning team this year, no doubt. But the problem is 85 wins. The Cardinals can easily put up 90. No problem.
Yeah. And listen, Vegas knows, right? I don't know how they know, but they know. They're right around that number every time.
Well, Vegas was superbly wrong on the White Sox last year.
Yeah, but everybody was.
I mean, the White Sox were supposed to be World Series winners last year, and I mean, that was probably one of the worst predictions I saw coming because everybody was hyped about it, and I mean, White Sox fans have a reason to be mad about that season.
Yeah, you know what it was? It got out of control. It kind of spiraled out of control. Is what happened. It spiraled out of control early. They couldn't get it back, and then they did just
the whole drama with Tony La Russa didn't help anything either. So
yeah, Tony La Russa. You know what? He strikes me as a jerk, right? Like, what's up with I don't like Tony La Russa, and the great manager, all-time manager. You know what bothers me about Tony La Russa? And it's gonna sound silly. Those the glasses that change color. Yeah. I don't like them. I don't try. Do your glasses change color?
Yeah, the transitional lenses.
They are?
Yeah, I'm a jerk.
Ah, you are a jerk. I knew it. Cubs fan. I was willing to give you a chance, but I'm always like, what is he like? And he just has that look on him. He's like, he's holding on to scraps with his hair.
Yeah.
Like when he's got the baseball cap on, it looks like he's got a ton of hair there. But he's an
still
old
got
man
his
now.
Gold chain that he wears,
Yeah. He's
looks like he came out of a Godfather
a wise
movie.
Guy. Yeah.
To come sit and do a press conference, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll see you and Ray Liotta later.
Yeah, exactly. He's like the uncle that you're like, I think he's in the mob. I'm not sure, but I think he is. But I mean, he's a great manager though. And listen, he was great with the Cardinals, and he was great even back with the A's. Yeah, with Eckersley and McGuire and the Bash brothers and stuff. So give him credit.
Yeah, but, I mean, you can't take anything. You can't take his accolades away from him. He earned them. He is what he is. He wears transitional lenses, so he's a jerk. But I think that's good, man. This show was awesome, man. I thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah, no problem. We gotta get you on our show.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And like I said, I mean, anybody who's watching, anybody who does watch the show, definitely check out Locked Up. Because it's Locked Up Sports.
Yeah, it's Locked Up Sports. We do 2 shows a week. We do one that releases on Friday, and then I do a weekend wrap up on Sunday. Sometimes it comes out Monday. With my job, I work like 18 hours sometimes, so it's a hectic schedule. But we do get one out Friday and then Sunday or Monday. And like I said, it's a good show. Me and my buddy Brett, we do it. We have a good time. We laugh. We have good chemistry. We get good guests. Some of these guests, I'm like, I can't believe these people are coming on this show. We have real good guests. We had Steve Phillips. So, we talk all sports, football, hockey, big Ranger fan. The Knicks all of a sudden are good. So, yeah.
No, I enjoy it. Your podcast is going to be one of my regulars that I listen to when I'm not doing my show. So, like I said, anybody who watches this show, make sure you check out Locked Up Sports, man. Thank you so much for coming on our show. It was a pleasure having you, man. And I'd love to have you again sometime.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, folks. So that's going to be it for us on Call to the Pen tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our guests for coming out. Thank you to Tony for producing the show. And we'll see you again here on episode 4. I know we ran a little bit longer than our usual hour, but we had a lot of sports talk for you. So I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you on, what's today, Monday? We'll see you on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Time.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.